On AEW Collision, Ricky Starks and Big Bill dethroned FTR in shocking fashion with a squash. You could say it's Big Bull.
What?
Like bull. You know?
What?
It's bull. That's
right,
bull.
but is it? But also, is that of all the puns you could have...
Look, man, you told me to come up with a pun 30 seconds ago. That is all I've got.
I'm just saying, Luke could have at least tried and failed.
Well, we're going to talk about it.
Here we are.
Is it Big Bull or not?
Is it a stark reminder of...
Stark's reminder.
Thank you. Of what happens if you run afoul of Tony Khan, maybe?
Whoa.
Or if you leave... What?
Mine is now better.
Yeah. Look, in my defense, and this is the reason that I look a little bit disheveled, regular service will resume in like a couple of weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's the London Film Festival this week. I have not slept in about 2 weeks. I'm wearing a t-shirt on the stream.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
We're wearing a t-shirt from the same company. That's absurd.
We're basically a tag team. Look at us go. You got a spare beanie, Lion?
I think I might actually. I'll
find one somewhere.
Season 1 get up. Anyway, welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast. If it's your first time here, please do subscribe to the channel, like the video. Why not? We do like live streams and podcasts all the time about so much wrestling. So much wrestling. We're going to talk about AEW Collision today. I'm Pete. I'm joined by Dan. Luke's not here today because he did Fastlane yesterday.
Don't we know it?
Yeah. So, he'll be back tomorrow with Dan.
He will. We'll be doing the Raw review tomorrow. We do
Regular
Raw
schedule.
review. We do. I don't know what's happening with the Dynamite review this week. Is it happening on Wednesday?
It's happening on Wednesday.
Happening on Wednesday because we have Title Tuesday.
Yeah. And the lineup for that is TBD. It might be Ollie.
Ooh.
Because he's back now, but it also might not be.
Yeah.
So
we're
figuring that out. Yeah. But for now, let's talk about AEW Collision, which started off the opening match.
Sorry, before we do, doesn't it feel like this for some reason, we do collision reviews on a Monday because working on a Sunday is usually cruel.
Yes, and we don't want to.
Does it not feel like this episode of Collision happened about 4 weeks ago?
I was going to make this point because I have never done a Collision podcast before. This, to me, watching this episode this morning, I was watching it and I was like, I feel like the entire news cycle has moved on from this. Which is... I've seen the results happen. I've seen the discourse to the results. I've seen the backlash to the discourse. And Fastlane has also happened. I'm like, whoa,
I think
so
that's
long.
it. I think it's all of the discourse. No, so it doesn't normally feel this way with Collision. Normally, I tend to watch it on either a Saturday night or a Monday morning, which is why it feels fresh in my head. But because there was such the title change, which is kind of massive for Collision, because the tag titles have been Collision's sort of shining jewel really since the inception of Collision. And then, all of the discourse about what it means, what it might not mean, what people think, what they don't think, and then a whole other pay-per-view. And then I don't know if it's... Big Brother started yesterday. Was that an impact that some people had? What was I doing? I went to a film. For some reason, this one feels like ages ago. Yeah. Which is such an odd thing.
Yeah. I mean, the news cycle moves on fast.
Oh, it really does sometimes. Yeah.
It really does. But the opening match of this show was FTR versus Ricky Starks and Big Bill for the AEW tag titles. Now, just going to point something out. I wonder if it will come up later. On the name bar for Starks and Big Bill said AEW tag team record 1-0.
Oh.
Just throwing it out there. Maybe we'll bring up that point later.
Undefeated.
Who knows? They attack Dax Harwood while his back is turned right as the match starts. They absolutely dominate FTR here. Beat down Cash. Cash is, complaining about a fractured rib in like the opening promos of the show.
Yes.
Cash was talking about his fractured rib that he's got. They choke slam Cash through the commentary table, get back in, hit 3 choke slams to Dax, and then Ricky Starks just gets in, hits a spear, and then they just win in a matter of minutes to open this show. So, there isn't much to talk about with the actual wrestling, because I think I just described all of it.
Well, there kind of is by virtue of not having anything to talk about.
So let's talk about what this means.
Yeah.
What is the implied message here? So people are saying that there was rumors circulating that this could be spelling the end for FTR and AEW, which is not true because reportedly their contracts are there until 2027. Yeah. So they've got ages yet. So they're not leaving. People are saying that Cash could be injured, like the fractured rib thing was a way to actually cover a legitimate injury. I would say if he is injured, especially if it's a rib injury, hell of a choice to have him take a commentary table bump.
Yeah, and the AEW commentary table is particularly interesting, and I did think about it while watching this, but because it's quite a thin table. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but there's something about the sturdiness of the WWE table, but also the width of it. You can kind of take a full bump on it.
Right.
If it is crumbling beneath you, that in a perverse way kind of breaks the fall.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a thin table, which could go quite wrong.
Yeah.
So it's not an what's the word? It's not a small bump to take.
Yeah. Which is just, again, a thing worth noting. The other point was that potentially with Cash's history with like the incident that he had, the arrest where he had before the incident he had, whether this is some sort of ramification from that, or maybe this is just what they wanted to do. Yeah. Maybe they just wanted a shocking title change. Now, there's lots of different outcomes and how I feel about those different things based on the different factors, and we don't know all the information. We don't know the cards that Tony Khan was dealt here and what he had to deal with for this. My gut reaction to this is I don't like it.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of Ricky Starks and Big Bill winning, and this goes for my philosophy on tag team. That's why I'm also not a huge fan of Cody and Jay winning at Fastlane either. I don't like two single stars beating an established tag team, especially as easily as this.
Yeah.
Because it renders the point of established tag teams a bit moot. If two good singles wrestlers can be just as good as a tag team, then what's the point in ever having like cohesive tag teams? Just have singles wrestlers, and anybody can be a tag team. So I prefer when established tag teams are more dominant. And you can have exceptions. For example, Cody and Jay I'm slightly more forgiving of because of the history with them, and those two have kind of been more of a duo recently. This isn't a Fastlane podcast.
Well, I mean, you can also like to your point, you can almost bring that in with, for instance, MJF and Adam Cole.
Absolutely. That's an established tag team.
Yeah, because they were two singles put together, and then they became an established tag team.
And they became a tag team, and that whole story was them coming together and gelling and bonding and forming, and that's how they become an established tag team, and then they can win tag titles. You go, that makes perfect sense. For this, though, Ricky Starks and Big Bill, for me, is a very unimportant, unestablished team. I mentioned it earlier, AEW tag team record 1-0. Yeah. They've had one tag match before this. That's it. One tag match. Which to me is not enough to make them a proper team. So my instinct is I'm not a fan. If there was some outside things and they needed to make some changes, I understand how this could have happened. But I'm not a huge fan of two single stars beating a tag team. I also think this is an anticlimactic way for FTR's tag title reign to end, personally. I think you can have the shock squash victory be a really captivating moment. We've seen it done effectively in AEW multiple times, but this case, it just didn't work for me. I've left going, that's weird, rather than, oh wow, what a shock. So yeah, I felt a little bit underwhelmed coming out of this match.
It's interesting because I feel like I do agree with the idea that if two randos can just get pushed together and be an established team, then it does undermine the idea of a tag team just division in general, really. I think where I differ slightly on this one particularly is that Ricky Starks and Big Bill have been a unit. They've not been a team, but for the past few weeks, that's been his henchman, right? So they've got a level of communication.
Sure.
And very much towards the end of this match, when it became full squash, Ricky's directing traffic. He's being like, another one. And they're picking at the scraps. That was very much set up from the opening promo right the way through the match. This isn't FTR at their best. This is FTR kind of at their weakest. They were sort of insinuating the FTR like Orange Cassidy kind of thing, where like they've been defending it so many times that your body just gets run down. Difference here though is that Orange Cassidy did that for an extended period of time. I don't actually know what the length of that reign was, but it was considerable. It was a bit more tape. This one feels like, to my mind anyway, and we didn't have a collision last week because of WrestleDream, but the last time we had a collision was a couple of weeks ago. They didn't have that much tape on them. They weren't suggesting that they were beaten up. They were very much just FTR having a sesh. So it did a little bit come out of nowhere. And then, yes, the idea that this reign... The other... I'm going to lead into my point, but the other thing that made this work for me was that the tag titles have been, as I said, one of the central jewels on the Infinity Glove of Collision. It was Punk, now deceased, not in real life, in you know,
in AEW. Yes.
It was also the tag division, and specifically FTR and Juice and Jay. And then it was also Ricky Starks in the Owen. Yep. Ricky Starks' ascension to winning the Owen tournament and then beginning this heel turn, which he has done magnificently. His match, the last-minute program with Bryan Danielson that turned in not only an amazing match at All Out, but also the Texas match last week, or whenever it was. Ricky Starks has kind of been it, right? So it was sort of a coming together moment. So the title change itself, I think Ricky Starks deserves it, and I think Ricky Starks and Big Bill do make sense for me as a unit, being vultures picking at the scraps. Where it does a little bit not work for me is, as you say, this reign has been brilliant. Cash and Dax, FTR signed AEW contracts. I think it was about 4 or 5 months ago now. They did it in the summer. Because do you remember there was the whole Guns versus FTR loser leaves AEW situation? And a lot of us thought, like, oh, this is a way of them...
could be the way to run out,
Yeah. But they won, and the news was reported, and it has subsequently been reported. I think Fightful said that they're signed until 2027.
Yeah.
So they're in contract. And yeah, I don't know if it is as a result of a punishment. We have known that these punishments go down. What happened with Cash, again, I'm not 100% sure on the details, so like wanting to make sure I'm not, sticking my neck out, but I believe it was arrested over aggravated assault with a firearm.
Yeah.
Literally, this news coming out and this arrest happening the week before the biggest show in the history of the company, subsequently the biggest show in the history of wrestling, not taking place in North Korea, asterisk. Like it kind of caused a real headache.
Yes.
So there's almost something in, and they were very fortunate that they were then able to go out and have that giant and brilliant match with the Bucks at Wembley, and that's a long time ago now, right? So that leads me to believe that it probably is option C, injury of some form. And if that's the case, they did as much as they really could do with an injured star. It is just a shame, though, that the reign has to end like this, because it was so good. And think back to that Iron Man clash that wasn't an Iron Man clash, that went an hour. 2 out of 3 falls, I think it was. But not only that, they'd had some brilliant matches anyway. Like, Luke and I would just wax lyrical about how great these tag matches were. They've done such a brilliant job that it's a shame. Almost.
Yeah. For me, there's 2 bits that I think weren't executed quite right. Like, if you want to do the title change, I think you can do it in a better way than what they're doing. And if injury is the thing that's plagued them here, it's unfortunate. But I think you could have done a bit at the start where they take out Cash, choke Sammy through the commentary table. That's what you're going to do. He gets taken out, and now it's Dax by himself. He then wrestles for 15 minutes by himself, and it's war of attrition. He gets worn down and then gets taken out. Because for me, this was a Big Bill squash match.
It was squash central.
And it was just Big Bill
that
squashed them both. Because it was Ricky Starks just kind of directing traffic and all that. But Starks didn't do anything.
No.
Apart from the spear at the end. Big Bill just single-handedly destroyed FTR.
And I don't mind that in a match with an Action Andretti, Darius Martin situation, right?
Yeah.
Like, where it's like, that's fine to build them up to this moment.
Absolutely.
But taking out the champs who have had this incredible reign.
Absolutely.
And then following that up with, as they were leaving, there was just a shot of, I think it was Cash, being taken out by medical. It looked very much like, and it's semiotics, high angle shot, denoting weakness, all of that stuff. So there was an element of like, oh, they're just gone now. They don't even get the you had a really good round of applause.
A moment in the ring or anything. Yeah, it was just kind of done, and then that's that. Let's move on.
And then you get the tweet from Dax being like, top guys out.
Yeah. Which is just... He
Dax
says that
does
all the time.
Dax
it's
does
top guys out. He just said that's his phrase. That's what they say.
It was odd. It was odd. So I can understand people not vibing with it as much. Honestly.
I just came away from it being like, that was an odd decision, rather than like, that's an interesting title change. I'm more thinking about the booking than I am what's happening on the screen. If that makes sense. It's taken me. I've stopped. God, I've forgotten. Suspending my disbelief.
Yes.
There you go. Kayfabe. I've stopped caring about the on-screen product, and now I'm thinking behind the scenes.
Right.
And it's that disconnect. So I'm like, why have they chosen to do that? Which is, again, I'm not opposed, though, looking forward from here. like we said, Ricky Starks has been on a huge rise, and he's been a linchpin of Collision since it's come in. I'm not opposed to Ricky Starks holding gold. It just feels like, to me, the story of getting here wasn't done quite right.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm left a little bit like, wasn't quite right. It's okay, but it wasn't quite right. It's kind of how I'm left feeling. But
the lesser-known B-side to Whitney Houston's It's Not Right, But It's Okay.
It's fine, but it's not quite right.
It's fine, but it's not quite right.
Well, shall we see what everybody else thinks? Let's get into what do you call them on this show?
Well, we were calling them No Mega. Oh yeah, I know. We were calling them No Mega Chats.
That's funny. Yeah.
For a minute there was CMDMs, but we weren't really feeling that.
CMDMs.
Currently,
okay.
and it's quite apropos given what happened.
Yeah.
We're with Stark remarks.
Stark remarks. We've got on the dock here from the mods. We've got Top Guy Chats.
Guy Chats. Well, that's the news.
Yeah. Which.
That's the lead topic, Top Guy Chats.
Top Guy Chats.
No, Stark's remarks.
Stark's remarks.
Well, the Top Guys are out.
Exactly.
Stark's remarks. Yeah.
Send in your Stark remarks to WrestleTalk.com/support. We're going to read out all the ones that are $5 and up by the time the show goes off the air. Will Campbell comes in to say, hey guys, I have to really say, I really like the title change. I'd love me some FTR, but Ricky has had a rocket strapped to his back in recent months, and he and Big Bill look and work great together. Also, Ricky looks good with gold on his shoulder. Don't disagree with any of that.
I actually quite like the big little dynamic. It's kind of like a Diesel Razor, like Drew, Dolph. That's not Diesel Razor, Diesel Shawn.
Yeah, I know
Drew and Dolph, kind of the sort of arrogant heel Ricky Starks with your big hoss man. It's a tried and trusted combination, and I do think he deserves it. I think he deserves it, and I wouldn't personally slot him into any single title. So if you do need to do a quick make good, tag belts are a good choice.
Yeah, I agree with the sentiment. It's just for me that, like, if you're going to push Ricky, have Ricky be the one to win, not just hit the spear at the end, but actually like take control of the match. Like, if Ricky's the X Factor, make Ricky the X Factor.
Especially because he has eaten a lot of L's. Like he was bantered off with the not really. Some people don't really like it when I sort of point this out, but the diversion of CM Punk being like, I'm in my feud with Ricky Starks, but you wait right there because I've got to go to Wembley and fight Samoa Joe because that's a far bigger match than you, which like it is. Like I know it is, and for the show like Wembley, and especially given that it was Punk's last hurrah in AEW, you wanted that match, right? But it's a weird, this mazy kind of like multiple strands at once booking that happens in AEW. And then losing to Danielson twice. Did he lose? He lost the Texas Death Match, didn't he? Yeah. He did. Yeah. I was for a second. I was like, but did he? I'm not remembering. No. He lost them both. So there is an element where it's like it would have been nice for him to be. But then again, I suppose you've got the snivelly weasel heel. Yeah. Did a very good impression of.
Did a very good impression of
DAD there. Yeah. By reading the chat, not listening to my point.
The snivelly
weasel heel.
Weasel heel. Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. What were the 3 words I said before that?
I don't know. I was reading the chat where someone said you were lit for the Whitney Houston reference.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
We're never too far away when Dan Layton's on the podcast.
Kid Cutty said, squash FTR. Nah, I ain't rolling, Chief. When Ricky said he would burn this place to the ground, I didn't think he meant tag team champions, SMH. It should have been a singles title with Bodyguard Bill. Anyway, is WrestleTalk doing a review for NXT, AEW, or both on Wednesday? So,
yeah.
Because we...
What a week it is! I'm sorry, I just got so excited. That was very legitimate how excited I just got. I think it just hit me like, what's happening?
Yeah, it's very exciting.
So camp.
So, because our normal schedule is we don't do NXT reviews, and we do Dynamite reviews. No. We're going to do, in the news episode, we're going to do an NXT 1 minute one take, and we're going to do a normal Dynamite review. And on the podcast, we'll be covering Dynamite. That's just what we do. So it's a normal Thursday, but move to Wednesday. That's it.
If you'd like someone to cover NXT, come over to my personal Patreon, and I'll just drink a load of rosé and do a full review. Why not? That way we have everything.
I don't know if I'm talking to the wrong audience here, but if there's any NXT fans watching this show, NXT reviews are in discussion, okay? They are. I'm not promising anything.
I'm an NXT fan.
I know you are.
On this show.
I know. Yes, you are.
This is news for me.
Yeah. And it might not be podcast. It might just be edited reviews. I don't know what we're doing yet. Well, but with how hot NXT has been, the argument to not do it is now less there.
Because honestly,
so we're talking about it.
Like,
okay?
let's talk about it in a way because it's been asked. Because NXT for a run, the reason we don't have a podcast is because NXT kind of was just a show.
No one watched.
No one watched it. Like now. They are making far more an effort. There's a whole interesting conversation to have, and they were pushing Dynamite very heavy on this episode of Collision.
Yeah,
like they were making a point of it's Title Tuesday. We've got all of these different matches that are going to take place. These are the people who are going to be on it. They want you to watch it, and as well they should. In the same way that actually this episode of Collision was an hour earlier than normal because of Major League Baseball, I believe it was. And they thank their lucky stars that they got an hour on opposed to Fastlane because they packed it with a massive title change to get everyone talking. And it did. And the Danielson and Fletcher match that we'll talk about in a minute, that was absolutely fire.
Yeah.
So they really it's businesses trying to get good quality stuff on their programming, right? So when you have NXT this week, they're front loading it, or they're sending Becky Lynch down there, or Seth Rollins is going to do a defense on there, or we've got a major North American title match, or in the case of this week, everyone and their mother is coming out to do NXT this week.
Yeah,
The Undertaker might be there. Like,
which
what's
is
that?
Hilarious.
I hope he takes at least 3 minutes to make it down that tiny NXT ramp.
Oh. At least 5.
Yeah,
come on.
I
Get
mean,
your expectations up. Come on.
They're going to do it.
Yeah.
Or he can hover from the ceiling. I don't know. But like that... This is what I mean when it's like I can't be bothered with the tribalism because it's like so, like honestly we're all watching them both anyway. Like I'll watch NXT and then I'll watch Dynamite later, or I'll watch Dynamite and then I'll watch NXT. I won't watch either of them at the same time because I'll be asleep.
You're not insane.
I'll be asleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really interesting week for that. It's a really interesting week as a fan of wrestling, but also as I was a TV student. I got my degree in film and telly, so I'm like fascinated by the machinations of why you've chosen to put these things on which hour. And we talk about production all the time, like where you can find. We'll talk about the fact that there was one women's segment again, I'm sure, but like where do you find extra minutes to put the women's stuff? Well, it's all over the place because you've done your production schedule wrong.
Yeah, like
that's the stuff that I love playing with.
Yeah,
and part of that is front loading your episode of Collision to try and keep people watching when WWE are putting on a honestly mid-tier pay-per-view. Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah. Andy Sandbox said, FTR Glock is going to be dealing with court soon, most likely. Maybe the rib is kayfabe because of that. And FTR Bold's tweet to me was obviously talking about their most recent title run, which I think should be celebrated right now. Ricky and Big Bill winning, I think, is circumstantial. Young Bucks are most likely winning at Full Gear in California, but I'm excited to see how Ricky is used going forward, and him getting a title feels like the feather in his cap on his way out. That's another point we haven't mentioned yet.
Oh.
The Young Bucks are the number one contenders to the belts.
Yeah.
We thought we were getting FTR Bucks 4. So now so that we're going to get the Bucks versus Ricky Starks and Big Bill.
If it is injury, then we would only get a substandard. It's what, like it's just over a month.
Yep.
To Full Gear.
To Full Gear. Yeah.
So like there is an expectation for Bucks FTR.
Yes.
Unearned expectation.
Yes.
So they probably don't want to deliver something substandard. So getting it out of the way now allows for. I guess us not getting carried away, and then them not being able to deliver. Although they have proven time and time again that they can just pull something out their ass and make it work.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting when you're talking about feather in his cap on the way out. What are we meaning there? Out of AEW?
Potentially, yeah. Is
his contract up?
There's talks.
I know that he's on their list of stars to poach,
and I think his contract either expires at the end of this year or sometime in 2024.
Well, because
that was the rumor.
Oh my god! Because we're getting to the 5-year point. Can you believe it? 5 years since since AEW came into existence, and they were all signed to 5-year contracts. And 2024 sounded like a million years away.
Yeah,
and now we're there. Relentless march of time.
I think the amount of contracts that are expiring in 2024, I think, is about 1 million.
Right.
So like everybody's going to be like up for grabs. Yeah. Not just AEW, WWE as well.
It was the same.
Tons that expire.
We're going to see an awful lot of osmosis.
So there's a lot of movement, and it's for me very exciting.
Good.
Very exciting. Powerpackers 90 said, I mean, to be fair, Pete, not trying to turn this into another AEW versus WWE debate. Bill and Starks have been together for over a month now, while Jay and Cody been a team for 6 days. Yes, I see your point, which is also why I don't like the Jay and Cody thing winning. There is nuance to the conversation in that Jay and Cody, Cody's like basically top star in the company, and also Jay and Cody have a bit of history together as well, with Cody bringing Jay to Raw. Like they clearly have some sort of dynamic. They've been in contact. They've been working together. Whatever. Bill and Stocks have the same thing as well. But also Judgment Day have also had dissension among their ranks with Priest and Balor, so they've not been 100% on the same page as well. So that's why they're a little bit weaker than normal. You can make the same debate for FTR. I just don't like either of the wins. That's it. That's just me. I don't like either of them. That's just me. Why is this opened on a weird thing? Why don't I have a refresh button? What's going on here? Why are you opened on internet and not thingy?
Just press that.
Oh, it's over there. Why is it moved over there? That's silly. Anyway, we'll deal with more later.
Yeah.
It's silly, Dan.
Okay.
Leave me alone. We'll get into more of your Stark remarks later on. Please send this into WrestleTalk.com/support. I'm going to read out all the ones that are $5 and up by the time the show goes off the air. But first, let's talk about the rest of AEW Collision, shall we?
Yeah, go on.
Because right after this opening match, which everyone went, wah! Afterwards, we then went right into Bryan Danielson versus Kyle Fletcher, which was awesome. I love this match. I can't believe that at the start of this show, Bryan Danielson said that Kyle Fletcher's 24. I'm like, no, he isn't. Stop lying to me. I've been watching Kyle Fletcher wrestle for like 10 years. I haven't. It's not the point. But it feels like I've been watching this guy wrestle for a long time on like the UK indies and stuff. Cannot believe he's 24. I would have said like 28 plus, you know?
I have like the polar opposite with Bryan Danielson, where I'm like, you ain't been wrestling for 24 years. Yeah. Even though I know that's factually true. And I probably somewhere in a box in my mum's house have a copy of Power Slam with the American Dragon and like Ring of Honor from 2003.
Yep.
Like, so of course, like that's been a while that you've been wrestling. But I was like looking at him like, no, you haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird how time works. Time is soup.
Relentless march of time.
Relentless march of time. But this match was rad. It really sucks that Mark Davis got the injury in the Wrestle Dream match. But they've really taken the ball with Kyle Fletcher and been like, we're going to give you some while he's out. Because Danielson here did his absolute best to get Kyle Fletcher over, because that's what Danielson does. He's the greatest wrestler ever. And in this match, Kyle Fletcher did an awesome / terrible dive to the outside onto like the barricade, like almost head first, like hit there, and his head was like right next to the floor. It was terrible.
He lawn dart.
Awesome.
He turned him into a lawn dart.
Lawn darted him. Yeah. It was awesome and terrible and great. I've written here after that amazing life, these two are very good wrestlers. Just throwing it out there, guys.
I had this last week where So we're getting treated to just a few TV bangers from all sides on all brands. Kofi Kingston especially has been putting in a shift the past few weeks.
Yeah.
There was a bit in Xavier Woods and Ivar last week where I just wrote down, I think sometimes wrestlers are just quite good. And it's that thing of like, you know, you forget when you watch, you know, not to turn this into a WWE podcast by accident, but sometimes when you watch a WWE show, you can just be like, they're doing television matches.
They did TV wrestling. Yeah.
And then it's like, oh no, they're actually quite good at this.
Yeah.
Like, these are all very talented people. And that's kind of what you have in this one, but they're going even harder because this is the, and I'll talk about this again, this is the serious wrestling show.
Yeah.
Where they're turning the dial up a little bit.
Yep, that's absolutely it. They did some serious wrestling here. There was some awesome action in this one. I didn't write any notes down because I was actually too into the match. So I didn't write any of the spots down because I was just watching it.
Yeah.
But it was awesome action. They got This Is Awesome chants on the show. Fletcher looked amazing coming out of this. Looked so good. So many great near falls and stuff like that as well. Taking Danielson to his limit, putting in like dragon sleepers and stuff like that, really working on the neck specifically on that. Did like a reverse suplex off like the second rope, top rope, reverse superplex straight into a dragon sleeper, and then locked it in, like hooked the legs around it. It was like, oh, this is it for Danielson. Like he's out now. Danielson managed to reverse it, just managed to roll up Fletcher and get the victory, which was so cool. What a match. And Fletcher looks so much better coming out of it than he did going in. And he already looked good going in, so it was great.
I mean, it's this thing of, I keep thinking about in his promo when he sort of announces on his retirement tour, asterisk, because I'm still not sure I believe it. Yeah, but he's basically, he referenced Odysseus, and I'm always thinking about Greek mythology, and then because I, like every other basic bitch in the world, read Circe a couple of years ago, and so I did read the Odyssey at school, but I kind of forgot most of it because I was a bit distracted. But I find Odysseus as a bit of imagery fascinating for Daniel Bryan, and I keep thinking about like what this idea of this ravaged old man like doing his labors to get back home to his bride and child and all that stuff. Like I find that imagery really interesting, and The idea being that over the course of this year or so, he's going to be taken to his limit a whole bunch is a really fascinating thing and a really exciting thing. And that happened here because from the thing I was also not writing down many spots, but the Michinoku Driver, which is a move I absolutely adore, was executed beautifully here.
So wonderful.
And then it's followed up by there's kind of brutality at the beginning, but also at the end, because at the beginning, Danielson is going in with these forearms.
Those forearms were brutal.
Right. And then you just get the opposite of that at the end with all of the Dragon Sleepers, all the wrenching, all of the battering, all of what was going on. And it just takes him trapping Fletcher to win. Because really all you need are 3 seconds of someone's shoulders on the mat to win a match. And it's that thing of, if you're squashed and then you manage to pull it off, it is perfectly legitimate, but sometimes it can feel a bit weird. In this one, it was a nice, evenly balanced match. It's just that the guy who's been wrestling for longer than the other guy's been alive was able to use his wiles to do it better. I'm looking forward to the person that gets the win. I think you could make an argument to have Daniel Bryan be completely undefeated until he sails off into the sunset with Birdie and Brie. But you could also build someone proper by having him, on a random episode of TV, a young guy gets a win, and that's when you have him go, oh, I'm breaking down. I'm old. Because if it's anything like this, imagine if Kyle Fletcher won here. Do you know what I mean?
Jesus. Yeah.
But in a few months' time,
yes,
that would be quite something. So I'm really curious about it. I really like it.
Yeah.
Amazing match.
After the match, Danielson gets attacked by Gates of Agony to soften him up because he's facing Swerve Strickland on Dynamite, which I thought was decent.
Yeah.
He got saved by the rest of Blackpool Combat Club, so it was all good. Nice.
I'm still a bit confused with my face and heel alignments, but I guess
I don't think there are any.
I think I need. That's a me problem now.
I think that is a you problem. Yeah. I think some people like having very clear face heel, and some people are like, I'll cheer for who I like. And
I like my shades of grey.
Yeah.
I just also like my. I also like my consistency.
Well, I think
especially with a faction. Do you know what I mean? And I guess it's different because Mox is got an injury now and was doing so well on commentary that he's kind of turning himself.
Yep.
But yeah.
I'd say as well, they're not. Danielson's a face. Claudio and Wheeler are not faces, but they like Danielson, so they're sticking up for their bud.
Sure, that's true.
So that's true. They're just attacking people that are attacking their friend.
Yeah.
And that's it. Which I don't think is an inherently babyface trait, because heels should also protect their friends. You know?
Yeah.
So it's just a...
But heels never need to be protected because they're... beat you up. They're gonna beat you.
They're gonna beat you up.
They're gonna rough you up good and proper. I was the bullied, not the bully.
Same.
Can you believe?
Yeah. We then got a backstage promo from Big Bill and Ricky Starks saying that they don't get a rematch. FTR don't get a rematch. No, sir. And now they're the faces of Collision.
Top dogs.
Top dogs.
Top dogs is what they're calling themselves now.
You know.
Big Bill and Ricky Starks is fine.
Yeah, you know, that's fine.
Top dogs out was good for this week. Don't carry on.
Yeah, I agree. We then had Bullet Club Gold taking on Angelico, Gravity, and Metalik. It's a decent tag match. Decent trios match. I really like Bullet Club Gold. I think they're great. And they won. There you go. It was a decent TV match. I had fun.
They do tend to just have these matches, though.
Yeah.
Right. This is nothing new for me. This is where I start... I love the wrestling of the wrestling show, but I do sometimes wish we could have some more of the story. We did get a post-match promo, I suppose.
Yeah. I think this match was done so we could get the post-match promo. Yeah. Really.
But that feels like that's what happens.
Yes.
And maybe that's by design. Maybe that's fine. I don't know. People's mileage on things varies anyway.
Absolutely.
Mine for me is just like, another one of these means I can look at my phone.
Yeah.
It was good. I enjoyed it very much. I even enjoyed Gravity's shtick, which normally I do not. But it was fine.
Yeah. It was a fine match.
Yeah.
Jay White cut a post-match promo calling out MJF. He's now taken over the CM Punk role.
Yes.
He's now acting like he's the champion despite not being the champion.
Yeah. I think they've kind of this is an example of them having to pull something out between Cole's injury and Punk's departure.
Yeah,
they've had to put someone in this role.
Yeah,
and thank God you signed Jay White.
Yeah, thank God for that. Thank God WWE had a hiring freeze.
Yeah.
As well. But Jay White here saying, he's calling out Hangman Page. Hangman saying, "You want to fight the champ?" Well, you haven't really earned a title shot, so it's going to be a non-title match, which I thought was very funny because he's not the champion.
How do you feel about the championship belt being around someone who's not the champion?
I don't
like the heist of it all.
I don't mind it this time. Okay. Generally speaking, I'm not a fan of that thing because it never leads to anything. It's like, I have your belt, okay, and then they'll have a match and then they win the belt back and they go, all right, I'll have the belt back now. This is working because there's a point. There's a point to him having the belt. He's now acting like he's the champion, doing title challenges. We can have an eliminator match, for my belt and all that stuff. For me, this works because he's made it part of his character rather than just like, I'm going to steal your belt to tease you, tee-hee-hee. And that's as far as it goes,
I think that tee-hee-hee thing, there was the bit with Nyla Rose and Jade Cargill last year that I quite enjoyed.
I like that because Nyla Rose is hilarious.
That's what I mean.
So she makes
because
it
was funny.
Yeah.
Whereas for your big belt, I don't love it. There's something for me about the moment someone puts a belt over their shoulder. Yeah. And I get that in this situation, Jay White's a heel. So it kind of works with the character. It's not the worst thing in the world. I'm not really angry with it, but it's a thing where I'm like, I don't want to. I want to see that first entrance where you've got the belt around your waist and it's been earned, and I've kind of been robbed of that now.
Yes.
I don't. Again, it's not something that really matters, but it was just something where I was watching I wish you had that belt around you proper.
Yes.
For the first time I see it,
Yeah. Regardless, though, good promo. Jay White's good at that talking.
He's quite good, isn't he?
Yeah. Nick Wayne did a pre-recorded promo explaining his motivations for turning and being like, hey, Christian Cage is the father figure I always needed, which is perfect. And always saying he was always going to be in the shadow of Darby Allin, and now he needed a father figure. Darby was not that father figure, but Christian Cage is. It's good. Good stuff. Yeah, really like it.
It was good. And these pre-recorded promos are a really good opportunity for people who are new in the game. And Nick is, very talented, but still quite young.
Yeah, very.
To get more sort of game time. Also, it sets them apart. I think there's a really nice balance on Collision, especially of recorded promo, backstage interview, and in-ring promo.
Yes.
So you get a real good balance of them all.
Agreed. Yeah. We then had a trios match of the Iron Savages versus the Acclaimed. The Iron Savages said they're going to eat some ass.
Yeah, the Iron Savages' whole gimmick is rimming.
Yep.
This is the serious wrestling show on the serious wrestling for serious wrestling fans about serious wrestlers, and their gimmick is rimming. Yeah. So my point, the point of I mentioned this is when we do have these moments of being like, hey, we're here for some serious, because I keep thinking about how when I was walking around Wembley, I heard someone say, it's just that AEW, and these words came out of their mouths. AEW is where actual fans of actual wrestling go. We just watched a match between two teams, one of whom's gimmick is rimming, the other one is scissoring.
Yes.
We're all watching nonsense.
A battle for the ages.
It's still fun. I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. Try everything once. But but it is one of those things where I think people can get a little bit too especially on a slightly dull episode of Collision. People can be a bit but it's the serious wrestling show.
Yeah.
Just perspective.
Yeah. I'm not sure I get it.
Don't knock it till you tried it, Pete.
Well, no. I haven't. So maybe I should.
Well, no comment.
But I don't know. They felt a little too goofy for me. And I know there's some
stuff.
We're talking
about the wrestlers now, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know some stuff can take some getting used to, like the Acclaimed.
Are we still talking about wrestling?
Yes. God damn it, Dan.
They're all thinking it.
Like the Acclaimed took some time for me to get used to with the whole scissoring thing. I was like, it's a bit weird. But then after time I was like, this is quite endearing and it's funny. And maybe I'd have the same reaction to Iron Savages over time. But for now, I'm like,
what's really interesting with the Iron Savages for me is they popped up on an episode of Collision, and I'd never heard of them before.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really an ROH-y person. Just because there's only so many hours in the week.
Yeah.
But they were big hoss tag team doing big athletic moves, and I was like, oh yeah,
great.
This is right up my street.
Yeah.
And now they're just rimming every week. And I'm stuck on it, and I'm like, what's happened? I don't get it. It's entertaining, sure, and then they still do the big Hoss athletic stuff, so that works for me.
For me, it then undermines those big spots.
It does
when they're big Hoss dudes, and they're like, gonna eat some ass. It's like, all right, thank you for informing us. You know,
well, consent is sexy, Pete.
Oh,
so,
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, the Acclaimed retain in a decent trios match.
Yeah.
There you go. It was a perfectly fine TV match again.
I like that because they're doing that whole shtick at the beginning when they're doing their mic stuff about like we've been the champs for 41 days or whatever.
Yeah.
I think they need to have a few more of those like quick victories to ramp that up because I like that, and I like that there's going to come a point where someone beats them and it's over.
Yes.
And I think that's quite fun.
Yeah, they're setting up a very good moment when doing that.
So absolutely. Yeah, look, the match was fine.
Yeah,
but I'm more focused on their activities.
Aren't we all? Shane Taylor and Keith Lee had a pre-recorded promo.
Another good one.
I like both of them. I'm
looking forward to the match more than I care about the story.
Yeah, that's
fair.
Yeah. I'd say so. We then got Toni Storm versus Kiera Hogan. Now in this match, there was actual eating ass.
That was me clapping the match, but then I was pretty deep in it when you mentioned eating ass, and now I'm just clapping
eating ass.
I was more clapping Toni Storm's virtuoso performance as this character is absolutely essential, quintessential, I might say. But yes, there was. I think I wrote that down as well. Where's my other notes? Yeah. Storm bites Hogan on the ass. This is a very horny half hour.
This is a really sexual show.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah.
Like, Iron Savages are rimming, Acclaimed are scissoring, Toni Storm slaps people on the tit, Kiera Hogan was slapping Toni Storm on the ass the whole time.
It was, yeah.
And then she literally ate her ass.
There you go.
That's what happened, okay? Not mincing my words, that is what happened. Toni Storm is absolutely fantastic. We all know this.
Yes.
She's wonderful. This character's perfect, and this was another a great showing for her to get the reps in for the character, so people are more familiar with it, and also for her to get a win.
Have you read the whole script?
No, I haven't. I did see a screenshot of it, but I didn't read the whole thing.
It's excellent. It's so funny. Yeah. It's perfect. Like the formatting of it, it's just so funny. It's just so good, and I love this character. I think it's just so out there. That I find it so tremendously entertaining, and at some point, especially if she's going to continue handing people scripts and her opponent's scripts, I hope someone humors her and does it, like reads the dialogue and everything. I think it would be wonderful. And she's so good at it. Like she sent us to commercial.
Yeah,
she was the one who was like,
"We'll be back soon.
We'll be back after these messages," or whatever she said.
It's great,
so good.
Yeah.
How dare you? The phrase "how dare you" is going to get over as a chant.
Just about to bring that up, because she said it in a way where it's going to get over.
It's going to get over as a chant in 2023. How dare you?
How dare you? And everyone's going to say it along because she's going to tease it up, and she'll have like a look around, and everyone goes, "Oh, we know what's coming next." Oh, how dare you?
I rarely buy merchandise.
Yeah,
I bought 2 in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
I'd buy a "How Dare You" t-shirt.
Yeah.
Because that for me is funny. That's very, very funny.
Yeah.
The match itself was like fine. It was good. There was a lot of sort of hip attack stuff that was a bit odd. The obsession with the biting of the ass, all of that.
It's a horny show.
It was a horny half hour. But you know, the commitment to the character and the commitment to all of it was fantastic. And I love the cutting to black and white. Do you know what it is, Pete? It gives me Goldust energy. Because it's movies.
And horny.
Yeah, and Goldust had his own like aspect ratio, and like I love Goldust. Like so I think this commitment to this wacky character, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep at it.
It's great. Ruby Soho did a backstage promo where she was informed that she'd be banned from ringside in the Saraya Hikaru Shida match, where she's like, "Wait, what? No, what? I mean, it's fine. Saraya doesn't need me."
So is she going to go on her own little mental journey like Toni did? Is she going to break and turn into...
Who knows?
Turn into... Timefall? Ruby Soho. I don't know. But like...
I was trying to think of a thing that starts with R that's like timeless, but...
No.
No, it's not there. But regardless, she's banned from ringside.
It's important to know when you've hit your limit.
Yeah, she's banned from ringside, which means she can come in at ringside at any time, as we know in AEW. Doesn't matter, does it? I'm being glib. Eddie Kingston versus Komander for the main event of this show. There was a support WrestleTalk sign in the front row, which I saw right here. If you were in Salt Lake City at Collision and you held the sign, you're cool.
Thank you very much for that. That really brought a smile to my face.
Yeah, that was very nice to see. I quite liked that Kingston was working like pseudo heel in this match against Komander. Like, that was really cool. Komander being the out and out babyface. Again, it's fun action. It was a good TV match. Yeah. I really liked it. Kingston's great. Komander's great. They had fun. There's a nice dynamic between them.
There was. They're very contrasting styles, which it can go one of two ways, and I think here it really clicked. Yeah. I loved especially that Komander was doing a kind of more grounded than usual. I struggle sometimes with Komander because of all of the rope walking and the flippy, and I fail to see really like in the old WWE, Charlotte's got this new move where she does a forward flip and then a clothesline, and it looks stupid, and like from a logic perspective, why are you doing it? Like, it doesn't give you more. It gives me more momentum. No, it doesn't.
The talk, Dan.
It doesn't give you any momentum. Start off with the talk. Why are you doing all of this rope stuff? Is it really giving you anything? And I get that's like Lucha Libre style, but I've also watched a lot of Lucha Libre wrestling. It's pushing it to an extreme that I don't think really works. So here, I was seeing what I consider to be like the best of Komander, and it was really, really fun. It was really interesting to see this dynamic between the two. The match was great. The little launch he did over the top of the rope was tasty, taken very well. Yeah, it was good. It was a good little match. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I had a very good time. Eddie Kingston retained with the spinning back fist. Love to see it. Really good match. Very nice. We then had, because that was not the end of the show, we had one more thing after that, which was Adam Copeland.
Yeah.
So Adam Copeland came out and did a promo. We'll go through it in more detail in a second. The sum total of this promo was, what up with that?
What's going on with Christian?
What's up with him telling me to GFY, right? What's up with that? And then Christian said, I'll tell you on Tuesday. That was the promo.
Do you not text each other?
Segment. Like, well, he probably doesn't respond, right? He said in this promo, he's not responding to my stuff anymore. Which I thought was a bit, considering how much they hyped Adam Copeland's going to be on Collision, and it's your main event segment. There was obviously stuff after the speaking bit, but I thought there would have been more of a point than Adam being like, what happened? And then Christian going like, I'll tell you later. I would have thought there'd have been more resolution than that on this show, but yeah, that's just me.
Do the rest of the
yeah. And then so Adam Copeland was saying like his whole plan of coming to AEW was to team with Christian Cage. That's what he wanted the whole time, and I didn't get to wrestle for ages because they were told me that I could never do it again. Same thing with Christian, and now we're both here, and that's very nice. So I really wanted to team with him, and then he told me no, and I don't know why. What up with that? Christian then comes on the Tron and says, "I'll tell you on Tuesday on Dynamite." But are you going to make it to Tuesday? Then kind of defeats the point of telling him on Tuesday. Whatever. And then Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne come out. They beat up Copeland. He gets in a copercution.
Yeah. I had to watch that back. It's not going to happen, Ian. Like, you're great. I love you. That's a no from me. Yeah. Copercution.
Copercution.
It's almost, I could almost hear him try it and regret it.
Yeah. Because there was a pause after he hit the move.
What are we calling that
And
move?
he was like, I can't call it an execution. Copercution.
I feel like you took the worst of the options. But,
But hey ho, he tried.
Just call it DDT.
But they get it, yeah. Elevated DDT, why not? They managed to get the upper hand on Copeland. He's attempted to be saved by Darby Allin. But then the heels gain the advantage again because Darby can't attack Nick Wayne because he still loves him. And Nick Wayne was like, I don't care, I'm going to kill you. And then drop kicked him. They did a concerto to Darby's arm, which is a cool spot. I like that. And that's the show.
It was an odd little closing segment.
Yeah, I wouldn't have had it as the main event segment personally.
Yeah. We had a whole conversation upstairs before coming down with the returning Oliver Davis about Edge being a draw, Adam Copeland being a draw, and doing a little numbers spike and all that stuff, and because Ollie thought he sort of would be, and I hate to bring this up again. Well, I don't actually, because I find it interesting. But the pictures of the Collision audience were, not to make a pun, stark. They were like, it was pretty empty in there, and even the way it was being filmed, like the lighting on the crowds was so low to cover that multitude of sins.
Yeah.
I think they need to fast forward making this feel special, because the moment you hear "You Think You Know Him," bah, 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 feels great.
Yeah.
Right? We've seen it a couple of times. 2010 return at the Rumble, 2020 return at the Rumble, even to an extent 2021 return at the Rumble. But and then yes, again at Wrestle Dream, it feels amazing when it happens. This storyline is the thing that I think Christian Cage is on the run of his life. I would argue.
Yeah.
You could also make a case for the run in TNA. But this one for me is the fact that he had that 7 years away and is doing this level of work that gets everybody talking, that gets press conference clips going viral, that has people making memes and all that stuff. Christian Cage on the run of his life. So having them together, this is far more interesting to me than having them do a sort of Edge and Christian reunion with the Hardys or anything like that. So I kind of feel a little bit like, get there, do it. Like, this, I'll be there on Saturday. Cool. I'll tell you on Tuesday. Stuff is a little bit, that go F yourself segment was so, no pun intended, dynamite. Why do I keep doing it?
I was just about to say that
because it was great. It was
really
and it's Christian is the one that really made it that. Edge towards the latter day period was often criticized for being a little bit too earnest, a little bit too verbose, a little bit too wordy. Go F yourself. Simplicity itself from Christian Cage. The peril there isn't there for me. I almost just want to press fast forward a little bit on this story and get to the more meaty bit. That said, it's still so early days.
Yeah,
so
it is, and I think it's totally fine that it happened on this show. Once.
Yeah, this one especially. This collision.
This one's fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had it as my main event segment if it is going to be on this show.
Yeah.
But don't have it continually where we're going to do this on Tuesday, we're going to do this on Saturday.
How do you feel about the Nick Wayne Darby closing image? Do you think that's a go home or end of show worthy image?
No. Not on a show when you had... I know why they put the tag title change on first. I understand. It's still... It feels like the same reason when Rampage first launched and they did their show in reverse, where you started off with your main event and then had a bunch of other matches here. It's like, just flip it. I think leave them with something hot.
On this show, flip literally the last two segments.
Yeah.
So Eddie Kingston goes off the air holding his belt high.
Eddie Kingston goes off in the main event. Yeah. It felt like it was a decent angle. I just don't think it was enough for the end of Collision, personally. I agree. But anyway, that's just me. Overall, this was a fine show.
Yeah, it was thumbs up.
Thumbs up show. That Danielson Fletcher match was phenomenal, and I loved it. Everything else was pretty solid. The tag match is questionable to some people and great for others, so that's still a thumbs up overall, probably. So yeah,
I think
it's a decent little show.
It's a going forward, what is it going to be thing. Yeah. Like, I think there's an element sometimes when I watch Collision where I enjoy the wrestling, but I get frustrated at the lack of, like, momentum, at the lack of forward movement. So I like a little bit of narrative drama in my wrestling. And I don't often get that on Collision. So when I build with a massive, like, closing... The show's going to end with a promo segment, I kind of expect it to be something massive, and it just sort of wasn't. So, wrestling-wise, everything's fascinating. The rest of it, fine. I enjoyed the show. It was a solid show.
That's fair. So before we get into the rest of your stark remarks, we have to say thank you to some very special people. Those are our $25 and above Pledgehammers on our Patreon page. If you've not been to our Patreon page yet, you probably should. Patreon.com/WrestleTalk, because we've got a bunch of stuff over there. We've got, Survival Series went up on Friday. Uncut version. It's on Patreon. We got TLC now on the WrestleTalk channel. 1 week's early access for the next one. The next one goes up on Wednesday. And then on Wednesday, you're going to have 1 week's early access for the next one. So go check that out. We've got exclusive shows over there. So much stuff. No Holds Barred Uncut is on there. There's loads of stuff on the Patreon page. Go check it out. Patreon.com/WrestleTalk. And if you pledge at the $25 or above tier, you get your own custom wrestling nickname and it gets spread out on a show much like this one. So thank you to the Eco Warrior, Brian.
Chris, Hellfire, Brimstone.
Infinite Crisis, Chris Jenkins.
Chris, the Cypriot Sensation, Petru.
The Turtleneck Tyrant, Christian Cooper.
All-Star, Chuck Turner.
Cody, the Terminator, Moody.
The Mayor of Painesville, Dan.
Daniel, Sweet Mexican Chocolate, Ibarra.
A tall, handsome guy who has goals in life, Delonta Blaine.
Dr. Hook, Nolan Evans.
And All Ego, Ethan Wiley.
Thank you very much, all of our pledge hammers. Really do appreciate it. Last chance to get in your Ultra Chat. Nope. Your Stark Remarks. Sorry. At WrestleTalk.com/support. It's going to read out all the ones that are $5 and up by the time the show goes off the air. Let's start with the derpiest of derps. It says Ricky and Big Bill winning, I think, is circumstantial. Young Bucks are most likely winning at Forgy in California, but I'm excited to see how Ricky's used going forward, and him getting a title feels like fair. We already read that one.
Now that you've reminded me about that, there's something there's the transitional champ element of it that is like,
yeah.
The feather in the cap for his on the way out thing is.
I will say,
pertinent.
We read out that chat as part of Andy Sandbox's chat earlier, and I don't know who that originally came from or if it's been copy and pasted wrong. So mods, could you have a look at that one and see if that is an incorrect message? If it is, if we read out Andy Sandbox and Derpiest of Derps messages earlier and they should have been two separate ones, or what's going on? Let us know. Thank you very much. We'll figure it out. And Andy Sandbox again said, with all the discussion surrounding how cold the product is it fair to speculate that AEW is waiting for a new deal before changing what they're doing? Constant criticisms around no local promotion for Dynamite and Collision, pay-per-view excluded. I would say they don't really budget for it correctly and have used a little too much on star power. Hopefully with a new deal and more money, they really can change how they're marketing these shows leading up to the night of. Very curious for the post-New Deal era.
I mean, that's a really fascinating topic because I would argue it's a circle, right? So if you want to get a decent new deal to be able to use like good investment, you want a hot product. Like WWE's TV rights deal are up for negotiation. We just had the SmackDown one.
Yep.
And I think there was an economic report that basically said it's actually not a massive increase on their previous deal when you consider how like good they've been doing. That's another reason that they're front-loading NXT, that they're putting all of these major stars and saying, tune in because you're going to see Asuka versus Roxanne Perez, and you're going to see Paul Heyman in the corner of Bron Breakker, and like John Cena's going to be there, and The Undertaker might be there. You never know what's going to happen on NXT. Cody Rhodes has an announcement. I want to know what that is. Like, there's a reason they're doing it, and it isn't simply just to beat Dynamite. Yeah. It's to beat Dynamite during TV negotiations year. It's to say we are the number one wrestling product, and our C show outperforms their A show. Whether that's like, you know, weighted average, whether that's like leading the witness, or whatever phrase you want to use for it, that's the purpose they're doing it. And frankly, sorry to be the authority, it's what's best for business. It's just good business. It's smart, and I think AEW should do the same, and they kind of are doing the same with the Title Tuesday thing. Spending too much money on talent, I don't know. I mean, I guess the money they saved on Jade Cargill, they've spent on Adam Copeland. It's I don't know what his deal is. I don't know how much money they are spending on him, and I don't know how much they're spending on other talent. I'm trying to think of the other big talent that they brought in that they might have overspent on in the past like year or so. But if there is a new deal coming and they're going to use that new deal to reconfigure their shows, they need to be doing the beginnings of that work now. They need to be making their product hot so that they can get the best deal possible. Because, you know, from all the reports, like WBD are quite happy.
Very,
you know, so they could probably tick along just nice.
Yeah. And the thing is, they're not bad by any means. It's not a bad product at all. It's just not as hot as it once was. And people want to see it return to the 2021 heights of AEW when everyone was like, AEW was the best wrestling going, and it was like amazing.
But I think the reason for that was the wrestling was great, but also the narratives were compelling.
That's it, right?
And I think the narratives, I think there was very much an idea of like, Tony had this again, it could be an entire new podcast. We're coming to the end of our hour, but this could have been like Tony had that, like, was it the first 4 champions mapped out, so the first couple of years of the company, and we're past that position now, and he's kind of booking on the fly. It's almost like, give yourself a holiday, leave Danielson in charge, right the next few years, bending over backwards to bring Punk in was an important and I think good thing to do. It was the right thing for a CEO of a company to do.
Yeah, at that point, yes.
During that did, however, throw a spanner in the works of booking. There were injury issues that they had to deal with, and they still have to deal with in many different places. That's something to take a look at as well. Like Man, to be a normal sports boy about it, Man United have a massive injury list at the moment, and it's in no small part because they have an interim person in charge of their medical. You need systems in place to deal with this kind of thing. Get those systems in place. He's kind of spinning loads of plates. It's one thing to just book Dynamite and put together a card for Dark and Elevation. It's another thing to book Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, all the other stuff. Ring of Honor. Does he Ring of Honor as well? Yeah. Mate, spread yourself thin. Like, also you're running Fulham. Also you're running the Jags. Yeah. Like, you need to get a team. He needs a team. Release control. Yeah. It's okay. Like, and it's not even like you still have the final say. That doesn't make you Vince. Yeah. Like, it's just, say, I want it to go in this direction. That's my vision. Yeah. Execute it. Build a team you can trust. And then if you book them, they will come. And I think he's starting that with Danielson. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's team member number 1. Yeah. And then experiment. Find some others. Then we'll be good. I think we've got the Stark Remark situation sorted here, because the Derpiest of Derp said, while I am happy to see this Ricky and Bill team get a push, because I think they're class, I worry what's going to happen with FTR when they don't have belts. Tony never knows what to do with them. Is it an interesting thing when a person in AEW loses belt? What happens next? It's kind of a. I don't like what's happened with Orange Cassidy, for instance. See, I liked it for a bit, right? But then nothing's happened since, right? Because for me that was one of the best title changes I've ever seen. Yeah. But it's just gone so wrong. Yeah, and I like the idea of someone who made the title so much of their character and their drive was I have to defend this belt all the time, and then he doesn't have a belt, and now he's like, well, now I don't know what to do, right? Because I don't have the belt, and not even in a character way, just in yeah, just like I don't know what to do now. That's fine, I think, for the first couple weeks when he's like a bit aimless and he's like, well, I don't have a belt. I don't have a purpose anymore. But then he needs to find something and pursue that. You can have the ramifications of losing a belt should affect people, absolutely. And then they move on to something else to pursue a new direction. And that's what I don't think has quite happened with Orange Cassidy yet. So I hope that FTR can reconfigure and find a new direction, whatever that may be. I also just think absence makes the heart grow fonder. If you're injured, or even if it is a punishment, time off. I would hope that they both, especially Cash, take it seriously enough to recognize the gravity of the situation and does the work to fix it, and then they come back and they've got, like I say, another 3 years on their lease is what I was going to say, on their contract. Yeah. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Come back and have a decent whack at something else. Yeah, absolutely. But I think that is going to do it for this episode of AEW Collision. Thank you so much, everyone who is watching and has watched on catch up. If you've made it to the end of the episode, please consider leaving us a subscribe and a like. Why not? I'll be back tomorrow with Dan and Luke, who will be reviewing Raw. We're going to be here on Wednesday this week, reviewing Dynamite, not Thursday, because it's on Tuesday this week. Title Tuesday. So we'll have a podcast on Wednesday for that, which means no podcasts on Thursday or Friday. But then we'll be back on Saturday reviewing SmackDown with the usual team of Tempest and Sat Iniangi. So much content coming your way. So yes, thank you so much for watching. I've been Pete Quinnell, been joined by Dan. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys in the next podcast. Jam that jam. Jam.